Renegade, Shadows of the Abyss, a 4-chapter sci-fi action epic featuring Wade Cross, Renegade, as the protagonist. Chapter 1. Welcome to the end of the world. Wade Cross, better known as Renegade, didn't believe in fate. Fate was what suckers used as an excuse when life kicked them in the teeth. He believed in opportunity, well-placed bullets, and getting paid in advance. Tonight, however, fate came knocking in the form of a dying alien, neon blood, and bad decisions. The planet Nix 7 was a cesspool of crime, neon lights, and broken dreams. A floating city orbiting a dead world where assassins, mercenaries, and warlords came to drink, kill, and disappear. Renegade had spent years here, carving out his own little kingdom of chaos. That's when the Zelvin stumbled into his usual dive bar. The alien, thin, gray-skinned, and barely standing, collapsed against the counter, black blood pooling beneath him. His 4 eyes flickered desperately as he reached out a trembling hand. You are the one they call Renegade." His voice was barely a whisper. Wade took a long sip of his whiskey. "If this is about that bounty on the cyborg Pope, I had nothing to do with." The Zelvin grabbed his wrist. "They're coming. The Abyss. They are coming for the core. You must stop them." Renegade frowned. "Okay, first, boundaries. Second, who the hell are they?" The Zelvin gasped something unintelligible before a pulse rifle blast tore through his skull. Wade sighed. "Damn it, I hate when people die before finishing their exposition." The bar exploded into chaos. A group of heavily armed mercenaries in black and gold armor stormed in, led by a hulking cybernetic warlord. General Hellborn, 8 feet tall, built like a walking tank, Hellborn's red cybernetic eye locked onto Renegade. "The Zelvin had something that belongs to my employer." His voice was deep, metallic, like a goddamn war machine. "Hand it over." Wade slowly looked at the corpse. "Hate to break it to you, Robocop, but your guy's dead. Unless you want his spleen, I think you're out of luck." Hellborn's cybernetic fist clenched. "You have no idea what's at stake." Renegade cracked his neck. "You'd be surprised, but I'm feeling generous. So how about you and your boys leave before I add more names to my dismembered limbs collection?" Hellborn didn't even respond. He just opened fire. Warehouse Showdown Renegade flipped the table for cover as energy bolts shredded through the bar. Bottles exploded, neon signs shattered, and patrons scrambled for the exit. "Welp," Wade muttered, drawing his pistols. "Guess we're doing this the fun way." He vaulted over the counter, twisting midair and firing both guns. 2 mercs dropped instantly. Another lunged at him with an electrified baton, but Renegade slid under his swing, slashing across his throat with a hidden knife. Hellborn charged, a literal wrecking ball of destruction. Renegade barely dodged as the warlord's cybernetic fist caved in a support beam like it was paper. All right, Wade muttered. "We get it, you bench press starships." He flipped onto a table, ran up a wall, and launched himself off, landing on Hellborn's back. The warlord snarled, grabbing him by the arm and hurling him across the room. Renegade crashed through a vending machine. "Ow," he groaned, pulling himself out of the shattered remains of a soda dispenser. "That's gonna leave a mark." Hellborn stomped toward him. Renegade sighed. "All right, big guy, you win. Just let me." He hurled a grenade. The explosion sent Hellborn crashing through the wall and into the rainy, neon-lit streets outside. Renegade dusted himself off. "That'll buy me a few minutes." Then he noticed the Zelvin's data crystal lying in the wreckage. Well, Wade mused, picking it up. "Looks like we've got a mystery." The message. Back in his safe house, Renegade plugged the data crystal into his console. A holographic projection flickered to life. A scientist, human terrified, spoke in hushed urgency. If you're seeing this, the abyss has already begun. They are after the core of Nix 7. If they reach it, reality itself could. The screen glitched. Then a new face appeared. Pale white skin, violet glowing eyes, a twisted smile. Emperor Virex. "Hello, Renegade," the warlord said, his voice silky smooth and filled with malice. "I see you've stumbled into my little game. How delightful." Wade narrowed his eyes. Virex's smile widened. "Come find me, if you dare." The transmission cut out. Renegade exhaled slowly. "Well, shit." He grabbed his gear. Looks like he had a war to stop. Chapter 2. Into the Abyss. Step 1 of any great plan. Figure out what the hell is going on. Step 2. Ignore all logic, jump into the fire and make it up as you go. Renegade before making a terrible decision. Nix 7. The city that never sleeps because it's always exploding. Nix 7 wasn't just a city. It was a machine. A floating titan of neon and steel, orbiting the husk of a dead planet. Skyscrapers stretched into the sky, their glass facades flickering with holographic advertisements, while hovercrafts and speeder bikes zipped between towering structures. Somewhere below, gangs fought over territory, corporations sold death in shiny packaging, and cybernetic mercenaries hunted anyone with a price on their head. And right now, Renegade was one of those targets. He crouched on the ledge of a high-rise, the rain-drenched cityscape glowing beneath him. His red and black armor was still scorched from the bar fight, his twin katanas strapped to his back, and his pistols loaded with armor-piercing rounds. A holomap flickered on his wrist display, showing his next stop, the Abyss Syndicate's headquarters. Virex wanted to play games? Fine. Wade Cross didn't just play the game, he burned the whole damn board. The black market deal gone wrong. To infiltrate Virex's operation, Renegade needed to do two things. Get past the mercenary blockade around Abyss Tower. Find out what the core actually was. He had a plan. Well, half a plan. He made his way to the Blood Pit, an underground cyber market where warlords, assassins, and smugglers gathered to buy and sell illegal tech, stolen weapons, and occasionally each other's organs. The crowd was as diverse as it was dangerous, hulking reptilian enforcers, cloaked psionics with glowing eyes, human bounty hunters with cybernetic limbs. Renegade walked straight into the back room, where a group of Abyss mercenaries were negotiating with a mystery supplier. At the center of the deal was a weaponized AI drive, top-tier black market tech capable of hacking entire city grids. "Gentlemen," Renegade said, strolling in like he owned the place, "I'd like to make a counteroffer." The nearest merc spun around, raising his plasma rifle. "Who the hell?" Renegade shot him in the face. Chaos erupted. The supplier pulled a hidden blade, lunging at him. Renegade ducked, twisted, and drove his elbow into the man's throat, sending him crashing into the table. A merc opened fire. Wade flipped over the table, grabbed a bottle, smashed it, and shoved the jagged glass into the guy's cybernetic eye socket. "Don't worry," Renegade said as the merc screamed. "I hear depth perception is overrated." The last remaining thug tried to run. Wade shot him in the kneecap. He grabbed the AI drive and walked out like nothing happened. A crash course in suicide missions. Back at his hideout, Renegade plugged the AI drive into his terminal. A blinking file opened. Project Core, classified. Inside, blueprints of Nix 7's power grid displayed something impossible. A hidden structure beneath the city. A massive, ancient power source buried under layers of reinforced steel and forgotten technology. Renegade whistled. "Well, that looks important." The file also included live security footage of Abyss Tower, and there in the highest room of the skyscraper stood Emperor Virex. The warlord was gazing out at the city, his glowing violet eyes filled with amusement. Then he turned, staring directly at the camera. "Nice try, Renegade," he said, his voice crackling through the speakers. "But I see you." The building exploded. Skyfall. The shockwave ripped through the city, sending debris crashing into the streets. Renegade barely had time to curse before a sleek black warship decloaked above him. Abyss death squads. They dropped onto his rooftop, plasma rifles aimed at his head. A squad leader stepped forward. His helmeted face was unreadable, but his voice was laced with smug satisfaction. "You're done, Renegade." Wade cracked his neck. "Buddy, I haven't even started." The merc fired. Renegade dodged sideways, drawing his katanas in a blur of motion. He cleaved through the first soldier, slicing through armor like it was nothing. A second merc lunged. Renegade ducked low, tripping him before planting a bullet in his skull. Another opened fire with a minigun, bullets chewing through the rooftop. Wade leapt, grabbing onto the undercarriage of a passing hovercar as it zipped through the skyline. Holy shit! He crashed through a neon billboard, rolling across the roof of a speeder, before finally landing on a sky bridge. He stood up, dusting himself off. All right, that was about a 9 out of 10 on the bad ideas scale. Then he turned and came face to face with Hellborn. The massive cyborg grabbed Renegade by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "I warned you," Hellborn growled. Renegade gasped. "Okay, hear me out. Can we not?" Hellborn's metallic fist slammed into his ribs, sending him flying. Renegade crashed through a skylight, tumbling straight into a high-speed train below. The abyss revealed. As Renegade lay on the train's roof, bruised but alive, he saw something horrifying. In the distance, where Abyss Tower once stood, a portal was opening. Dark energy swirled and pulsed, lightning crackling as something massive stirred within. The very fabric of reality was distorting, warping around the rift. Then, for just a moment, he saw them. Creatures. Shadowy, shifting forms, moving within the abyss, watching, waiting. The core wasn't just a power source. It was a prison. And Virex was about to let something out. Renegade exhaled. "Oh yeah, this is gonna be one of those days." He reloaded his guns. Then he jumped off the train, ready to kill a warlord and save the damn universe. Chapter 3. War of Shadows. Step 1. Start a fight. Step 2. Regret everything immediately. Step 3. Win anyway. Renegade, right before jumping into certain death. A city on the brink of oblivion, the lion. The sky above the floating city had turned into a maelstrom of darkness. The tier in reality pulsing with eldritch energy. The buildings below shuddered as gravitational distortions twisted steel and shattered glass. Hovercrafts malfunctioned and spiraled into fiery crashes, their pilots screaming as they vanished into the abyss. And through it all, Virex stood atop the ruins of Abyss Tower, arms raised, welcoming the apocalypse. Renegade was done watching. He leapt off the high-speed train, grappling onto a passing drone, then swung himself onto a collapsing sky bridge. Abyss mercenaries swarmed the area, their glowing violet visors marking them as Virex's elite forces. Each one wielded high-tech plasma rifles, exo-enhanced armor, and, most annoyingly, a serious lack of humor. Renegade pulled out both pistols, unloading a barrage of bullets as he charged into the fray. A merc dove for cover. Renegade slid across the rain-slicked bridge, spinning mid-slide and shooting the guy through the head. Another aimed a railgun at him. Renegade threw a knife, pinning the soldier's arm to the wall before suplexing him off the bridge. A third merc rushed in, wielding an energy blade. Renegade parried the strike with his katana, sparks flying as the two dueled across the crumbling structure. "You're pretty good," Renegade said, dodging another swing. The merc didn't respond. "Silent type, huh? You guys need a union, or at least a mandatory joke quota." He twisted, kicked the merc's knee sideways, and stabbed his katana through his chest. Then, as reinforcements arrived, Renegade pressed a button on his wrist and detonated the explosives he had planted earlier. Bah! The entire sky bridge collapsed in a fiery explosion, sending mercenaries tumbling into the abyss. Renegade naturally grappled onto a falling speeder, rolled onto its hood, and commandeered it in midair. Because why not? A deal with a devil. As Renegade raced toward Virex's fortress, a familiar voice crackled through his comms. "You're running out of time," came the smooth, synthesized voice of Dr. Malice, one of Virex's top lieutenants. Malice was a techno-witch, a cybernetically augmented scientist who had sold her humanity for knowledge. Her body was a sleek fusion of machine and flesh, her golden eyes cold and calculating. "I can offer you an alternative, Renegade," she purred. "Turn back now, and I'll let you live." "Tempting," Renegade said, steering the speeder through fallen debris, "but I think I'll pass." Malice sighed. "Then you leave me no choice." Lightning arced across the sky. Renegade looked up, just in time to see Malice herself descending from the storm clouds. She landed gracefully atop a nearby building, hovering slightly, her metal limbs whirring as she raised one glowing palm toward him. Then the storm answered. A bolt of artificial lightning slammed into Renegade's speeder, short-circuiting its systems. "Oh, come on!" The vehicle spiraled out of control, flames engulfing its hull. Renegade had 1 second to react. He jumped. Showdown in the storm. He landed hard on a rooftop, rolling to his feet just as Dr. Malice descended in front of him. "I admire your resilience," she said, her metallic claws crackling with energy. "Yeah, I get that a lot," Renegade said, drawing both katanas. Malice attacked first, her blades of pure electricity slicing through the air. Renegade dodged, flipping over her, then slashed at her cybernetic arm. Sparks flew as his blade barely cut through her reinforced alloy plating. She retaliated with a shockwave, sending him skidding across the rooftop. Renegade shook his head. "Okay, that hurt, but also kind of fun." Malice lunged, aiming a devastating strike at his heart. At the last second, Renegade ducked under her attack, flipped onto her back, and jammed an EMP grenade into her exposed circuitry. "Say goodnight, Robocop." Boom! Malice convulsed as the EMP shorted out her systems. She staggered, collapsing onto one knee. "You bastard." Renegade sheathed his swords. "I get that a lot too." He grabbed her comm device and hacked into Virex's security grid. "Now, let's crash a party." Virex unleashed Renegade arrived at Abyss Tower's ruins, where Virex stood at the heart of the storm. The warlord turned, his golden exo-armor gleaming under the abyssal light. His 4 glowing eyes locked onto Renegade. "You truly don't know when to quit," Virex said, amused. Renegade grinned. "Oh, I know when to quit. I just ignore that part." Virex raised a hand. The shadows behind him stirred. Dozens of abyssal creatures slithered out of the rift. Their distorted forms twisted reality itself, their claws like obsidian razors. Renegade reloaded his pistols. "All right, round 2, ugly." Virex vanished in a blur of motion, appearing behind Renegade in an instant. A fist coated in dark energy slammed into his spine. Renegade went flying, crashing through steel debris. He groaned, spitting blood. Okay, that was new. Virex walked toward him, effortlessly dodging the bullets Renegade fired. "You don't understand, do you?" Virex said. "This is not just about power. This is about evolution. The core holds knowledge beyond our comprehension." Renegade struggled to his feet. "Yeah? Well, I like my brains unfried, thanks." Virex raised both hands, channeling the abyssal energy into a final, devastating blast. The entire city trembled. Renegade only had one chance. He activated the AI drive he stole earlier, overloading it and turning it into a miniature singularity bomb. Virex's eyes widened. "What have you done?" Renegade smirked. "I did what I do best. I made a bad decision." He threw the bomb directly into the rift. Everything went white. A shockwave of pure energy erupted from the abyss, tearing through the skyline. The rift collapsed. The creatures shrieked and dissolved as the portal imploded, dragging them back into the void. Virex staggered, his power fading as the abyss was sealed. Renegade stood over him, katana at his throat. "This is the part where you beg for mercy." Virex laughed, even as blood dripped from his mouth. "I will return," he whispered. "The abyss is eternal." Renegade rolled his eyes. Yeah, real ominous. Then he plunged the katana through Virex's chest. Chapter 4. The Last Laugh. There's no such thing as a clean getaway, only a messy one that you survive. Renegade, shortly before everything exploded. The city burns. The moment Renegade plunged his katana into Virex's chest, the sky ripped itself apart. The collapsed rift above Abyss Tower pulsed violently, waves of unstable dark energy rippling through the air. Buildings twisted into impossible angles, streets fractured into floating debris, and what remained of Nick 7's skyline dissolved into a gravitational nightmare. Virex gripped the blade in his chest, a sick grin forming as his blood, black and shimmering, hissed against the steel. "You think this is victory?" he rasped, even as the abyss drained from his veins. Renegade yanked the sword free. "I mean, kinda looks like one from where I'm standing." Virex lunged forward, his gauntleted fist colliding with Renegade's ribs in a final act of spite. Crack. Renegade flew backward, pain screaming through his side as he slammed into a collapsing pillar. Virex stumbled, his body convulsing as abyssal energy drained from him like a dying star. His glowing eyes dimmed, his breath hitched. Then, his body disintegrated. Nothing remained but his armor, smoldering in the ruins. Renegade wiped blood from his mouth and stared at the spot where the Galactic Warlord had stood just moments before. "Huh. Dramatic exit," he muttered, then collapsed to one knee. That's when his comms crackled. "Renegade," came a familiar voice. "Nova," he groaned. "Oh, now you call." Incoming doom. Nova's voice was sharp. The rift collapse destabilized the city's anti-gravity core. Nick 7 is falling. Renegade looked up. The floating metropolis was breaking apart, sinking toward the planet below. Enormous towers tilted at unnatural angles, entire districts crumbling as the city descended in a slow-motion apocalypse. Nova continued. "I'm en route with a dropship, but we have 3 minutes before impact." Renegade looked around. The city was a war zone. Mercenaries and abyssal creatures were still battling in the ruins, unaware that they were all about to become a fiery crater on the planet's surface. He cracked his neck. "Guess I better make this quick." Final run. Renegade sprinted through the wreckage, dodging falling debris and stray plasma bolts. A mercenary lunged at him. He sidestepped and shot him in the face mid-stride. 2 abyssal beasts blocked his path, their distorted, nightmarish forms shifting unpredictably. Renegade vaulted over them, dropping a cluster grenade as he passed. Boom. He landed, rolled, and kept running. The air was filled with screams, gunfire, and the deafening sound of a dying city collapsing around him. Ahead, he saw a docking bay where Nova's dropship hovered. Ramp open. Almost there. Then, a blast of crimson energy struck the ground in front of him. Renegade skidded to a halt. A shadow loomed in the smoke. The final enemy, Dr. Malice. Dr. Malice emerged from the wreckage, her cybernetic body flickering with damaged circuits. One arm was missing, her exposed metal frame glowing with unstable energy. Yet, she was still smiling. "I admire your tenacity, Renegade," she said, her golden eyes flickering. Renegade sighed, flexing his fingers over his pistols. "Listen, Doc, I'd love to do the whole epic final duel thing, but in case you haven't noticed, we're all about to die." She cocked her head, amused. "Oh, I've noticed." Her remaining arm transformed, morphing into a plasma cannon. Renegade groaned. "Of course it's a plasma cannon." She fired. He dodged, barely avoiding the crimson energy blast that obliterated the ground behind him. "You just don't quit, do you?" Renegade shouted, flipping onto a wrecked speeder to get a height advantage. Malice fired again. Renegade jumped off the speeder just before it exploded. He twisted midair, firing 3 perfect headshots. They bounced off Malice's reinforced skull. "Right? Metalhead." She lunged, faster than humanly possible. Renegade ducked, barely avoiding a swipe of her razor-sharp claws. He grabbed a detached power cell from the debris, jammed it into his pistol, and fired an overcharged shot. The energy slammed into Malice's core, sending her staggering back as sparks erupted from her torso. Renegade didn't stop. He rushed forward, kicked her in the chest, and, using his momentum, twisted and plunged his katana into her exposed circuits. Malice's body jerked violently. Her glowing eyes flickered. She smiled. "You really are a magnificent bastard." Then she exploded. Escape or die. Renegade was thrown backwards, his body slamming into the pavement as Malice detonated in a fiery blast. Everything hurt. He forced himself up, blinking through blood and smoke. The docking bay was just ahead. Nova was yelling over comms. "Renegade, you have 10 seconds before the city collapses." 10 seconds. Plenty of time. He started sprinting, lungs burning. 5 seconds. The city began to tilt violently. 3 seconds. Renegade leapt, diving onto the dropship ramp just as the entire docking bay gave way beneath him. Nova grabbed his arm and yanked him inside. The dropship blasted off, engines roaring. As they ascended, Renegade looked out the viewport, just in time to see Nix 7 plummet toward the planet below. The moment it hit the surface, a titanic shockwave erupted, the entire city disintegrating in a violent firestorm. Renegade exhaled. "Well," he muttered, "that was a thing." Aftermath hours later, in the safety of Nova's hideout, Renegade sat in a chair with a half-melted ice pack on his ribs. Nova stood nearby, arms crossed. "You nearly got yourself killed." Renegade grinned. "Yeah, but I didn't," she sighed. "Virex is gone, Malice is dead, the abyss is sealed." Renegade raised his half-empty whiskey glass. "Mission accomplished." Nova shook her head. "You're impossible," he winked. "Yeah, but you like that about me." She rolled her eyes but smirked. Renegade took a sip of his drink, leaned back, and smirked at the galaxy outside. Another day, another disaster. And damn, did he love this job.